The human ship fell from the sky like a dying bird. Captain Graham stood in the command center, watching the planet grow larger and larger through the damaged. Red warning lights flashed all around him. The engines had failed 2 hours ago. The shields were gone. Now there was nothing left but gravity pulling them down toward the rocky surface below. "How long?" asked, his voice calm and steady. The young officer at the navigation console looked back at him with fear in her eyes. 3 minutes, sir. Maybe less." Nodded. He had been a soldier for 20 years. He had seen combat, seen death, seen things that would break most people. But he had never crashed a ship with 500 people aboard. He gripped the armrest of his command chair and made his choice. "Vent the rear cargo sections," he said. "All of them now." The officer hesitated. "Sir, that will kill anyone back there." "The rear sections are already damaged beyond saving," said. "The venting will create a burst that might slow our descent. It will also reduce our weight. It is our only chance. Do it." The officer turned to her controls. Within seconds, the ship shuddered violently. Felt the deceleration push him back into his seat. The descent began to slow. It was not much, but it was enough. The ship hit the ground hard. The impact threw everyone forward, crashed into his console, tasting blood. Around him, alarms screamed and sparks flew from broken systems. But the ship did not break apart. It did not explode. It held together. For a moment, there was only silence and dust. Then pushed himself up. His left arm hurt and he thought it might be broken. He did not care. He was alive. Most of the ship was alive. "Damage report," he commanded, moving toward the exit. As he left the command center, officers called out information behind him. Hull breaches in sections 4 and 7. Life support failing in the medical bay. The landing struts were destroyed, but the core of the ship was intact. Made his way to the main hangar. Survivors were already gathering there, confused and hurt. He began organizing them, assigning tasks, making decisions with the speed of a man who had learned long ago that hesitation kills. That was when the soldiers arrived. They came through the broken outer doors like nothing had ever seen. Their armor was silver and flowed across their bodies like liquid metal. Their weapons were weapons of pure energy. They moved with a grace that suggested they had fought 1,000 battles and won them all. At the front of the group stood a figure that made all of them stop. She was tall, with skin that shimmered between blue and purple. Her eyes were large and dark, with no whites visible at all. She wore robes that seemed to shift color as she moved, and on her chest was a symbol that recognized from the diplomatic briefings he had received before launch. It was the symbol of the Vex Empire, the symbol of royalty. The figure before him was a princess of the Vex. "I am Princess Lyra of House Vex," she said, her voice clear and cold. "You have crashed into Vex territory without permission. Your presence here is a violation of interstellar law." Stepped forward slowly. He could see the soldiers behind her tense, their weapons rising slightly. He kept his hands visible and his expression calm. This was a negotiation now, and he had learned that in negotiations, the first person to show fear lost. "I am Captain Graham of the human colony fleet," he said. "We did not choose to crash here. Our ship was damaged. We needed to land or everyone aboard would have died." Lyra's large eyes studied him for a long moment, could not read her expression. He did not know if she was angry or curious or something else entirely. "Your species is known to us," Lyra said finally. "Humans. You are ranked as a civilization level 3 on the Vex scale. You have space travel, but barely. You have weapons, but they are primitive. You are not a threat to the Vex." "I am not here to be a threat," said. "I am here to keep my people alive. We need to repair our ship or we need assistance leaving this planet. Either way, we are asking for mercy." Lyra turned to speak with one of her advisors, a tall male with hardened features and eyes that contained nothing but contempt. They spoke in their own language, too fast for to follow. Then Lyra turned back to him. "The Vex Empire has no obligation to help you," she said. "However, I find your directness interesting. You do not beg. You do not show weakness. This is unusual for a level 3 civilization." "We want to survive," said. "Begging does not help with that, action does." Lyra considered this. Then she made a decision that would change everything. "You may have access to the crash site," she said. "You may salvage what remains of your ship, but you will do this under guard. Any attempt to leave this area, any attempt to hide weapons or technology, and you will all be executed. Do you understand?" "I understand," said. "Thank you." Lyra turned to leave, but then she paused and looked back at him. "What is your name again, human?" "Graham." "Graham," Lyra repeated as if tasting the words. "I will be watching you, see that you survive well." Then she was gone, moving back through the doors with her guards behind her. Exhaled slowly. Around him his people began to breathe again. They had been given a chance. It was more than he expected. He immediately began organizing work teams. Some would focus on salvaging equipment. Others would work on creating shelter. He took inventory of what they had: tools, some power cells, medical supplies, water recyclers, and most importantly, the knowledge and skills of his people. As night fell on, stood outside the ship and looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there was Earth and home and the life he had known. Down here was a hostile alien planet and a royal princess who could order them all killed with a single word. But had survived worse than this. Not much worse, but worse. He would keep his people alive. He would fix the ship. And he would do it all under the watch of the Vex Empire and a princess who looked at him like he was a puzzle she wanted to solve. As he turned back toward the camp, did not know that his life was about to change forever. He did not know that the princess who had threatened to execute him would soon become his student. He did not know that her training would transform her into something the galaxy had never seen before. He only knew that tomorrow they would start work, and the day after that they would work again, because that was what humans did. They survived, they adapted, and when the universe tried to break them, they got back up and kept moving forward. The night was cold and dark, but Graham had seen worse. He always had. 3 months had passed since the crash. The human settlement had grown from a desperate camp into something that resembled a functioning base. Had organized his people into work crews, and they had salvaged enough equipment to create power, water, and shelter. The Vex guards watched them constantly, but they had not interfered. What the guards did not know was that Princess Lyra was watching too, but she watched for different reasons. It had started with curiosity. Lyra had spent her entire life in the royal palace, trained in protocol, politics, and the traditional ways of Vex combat. Her father, Emperor Vex, had ruled the empire for 500 years. Her future was already decided. She would marry a noble house, produce heirs, and eventually help rule the empire alongside her father. It was the way of her people. Then she had met Graham. She began visiting the human settlement at night, moving through the shadows in ways that only a royal guard could move. She watched organize his people. She watched him solve problems that should have been impossible with the tools they had. She watched him teach, counsel, and lead. Then one night she revealed herself. Was checking the water recyclers when a voice came from the darkness. "Your people work with purpose. This is interesting." Turned to see Princess Lyra standing in the dim light. He stood immediately, showing respect by lowering his head slightly. "Your Highness," he said, "I did not know you were here." "Of course you did not," Lyra said. "I did not want you to know, but I have watched your work for many weeks now. I have questions." "What kind of questions?" asked carefully. "You organize your people in ways that do not match Vex military doctrine," Lyra said. "You do not arrange them by rank or strength. You arrange them by skill. You place weak individuals alongside strong ones. You have them teach each other." "Why?" Considered his answer. He understood that each word could be dangerous, But he also understood that the princess was genuinely asking, not testing him for failure. "Because humans are not very strong as individuals," said honestly. "We are not as fast or as powerful as your people. We cannot survive the cold as easily. We do not have natural armor or enhanced senses. What we have is the ability to think and to work together. A weak human with good knowledge is more valuable than a strong human without knowledge. And when humans teach each other, they create strength that is greater than the sum of their parts." Lyra was silent for a long moment. Then she said something that surprised. "Teach me." "Teach you what?" asked. "Teach me how humans think," Lyra said. "Teach me how humans solve problems. Teach me your methods of combat and strategy." Did not answer immediately. He understood what she was asking and what the consequences might be. If the Vex Council discovered that the princess was receiving instruction from a level 3 species, it could create serious problems. "If we are discovered," said carefully, "it could put you in danger." "Then we will not be discovered," Lyra said simply. "There is an old training ground outside the palace, used long ago when my ancestors fought battles. It is abandoned now. No one goes there. We can meet there, 3 times each week, 1 hour each time." Studied the princess. Her dark eyes showed no fear, only determination. She had already made her decision. She had only told him as a courtesy. "I will teach you," said. What followed was the strangest education either of them had ever received. 3 times each week, Princess Lyra would come to the abandoned training ground and learn from Captain Graham. She came dressed in simple fighting clothes, with no guards and no ceremony. They moved through techniques and strategies and ways of thinking that had been developed by humans through thousands of years of survival. Taught her about positioning and timing. Humans could not overpower a Vex warrior, so they had learned to use leverage and angle to redirect force. He taught her that strength without technique was just force, but technique without strength was precision. He taught her about psychology. Humans had learned that understanding what your enemy wanted was as important as understanding what they could do. An opponent who thought they had already won was easier to defeat than one who fought with full focus. He taught her about adaptation. Vex military doctrine was built on established procedures, but humans had survived by being flexible, by seeing problems in new ways, by changing tactics when the situation required it. Most importantly, he taught her that weakness did not mean defeat. "When I was young," told her one night, "I fought a Vex soldier in a training exercise. He was twice my size, twice my strength. I thought I would lose, but I realized that his greater strength meant his bones had to support more weight. It meant his movements had to be more forceful. I learned to move in ways that redirected his force back into his own body. I learned to strike at points where my smaller size gave me advantage. In the end, I won." Lyra absorbed this knowledge like the night sky absorbs light. Her natural talent, combined with teaching, created something new. She moved differently than other Vex warriors. She thought differently. She began to win sparring matches against opponents she had never beaten before. The royal advisor, a stern male named Lord, began to notice. He questioned where the princess was spending her time. He noticed her new techniques. He grew suspicious. One day, Az and Lyra were practicing. Guards surrounded the training ground. Lord stepped forward, his armor glowing with barely contained rage. "Princess, you have been training with this human. This is a violation of protocol." Lyra stood straight and calm. "I have been learning," she said. "Is learning a violation?" "You have been learning from an inferior species," Lord said. "This is an insult to the Vex. It is weakness." Then Lyra did something that changed everything. She asked to fight her, not in practice but for real, in front of Lord and all his guards. Understood what she was doing. She was about to show them what she had learned. She was about to prove that learning from humans was not weakness but strength. They fought for 5 minutes, moved with precision and technique. Lyra moved with the speed and power of a Vex Royal, but guided by everything had taught her. When it was over, she stood victorious and was on the ground, breathing hard. Lord was silent. All the guards were silent. "I have learned from the best teacher I could find," Lyra said to Lord. "I am stronger now than I have ever been. If you wish to report this to my father, do so. But know that the future of the Vex Empire may depend on learning what humans know." Lord's face twisted with anger, but he said nothing. He turned and left, his guards following behind him. Stood slowly, and Lyra helped him up. Their eyes met for a moment, and both of them understood that everything had just changed. The secret was out, and there was no going back to the way things had been. The Royal Tournament was the most important event in the Vex calendar. Every 5 years, the great warriors of the Empire competed to prove their strength and skill. The winner earned the right to lead the Royal Guard and received honor throughout the Empire. Princess Lyra had entered the tournament. Lord had reported everything to Emperor Vex. Rather than executing or punishing Lyra, the Emperor had made a different choice. He would let the tournament prove whether human training had value or whether it was a foolish waste of time. "If you win," Emperor Vex told his daughter, "I will consider your claims about human knowledge. If you lose, both you and the human will face execution. This is how we will settle this matter." Lyra had accepted without hesitation. Now, as she stood in the tournament arena, surrounded by the greatest Vex warriors in the Empire, she felt no fear. She felt only focus. The first round was against a warrior named. He was strong and fast, with 17 years of military experience. He believed that a princess who learned from humans would be easy to defeat. Attacked with overwhelming force, his movements following the traditional Vex style, Lyra did not meet his strength with her own strength. Instead, she moved like water, using his momentum against him. She struck precise points on his body, using the techniques had taught her. Within 3 minutes was on the ground, his arm broken, his confidence shattered. The crowd was shocked. The second round was against a female warrior named. She was more careful than more disciplined. She tried to match Lyra's movements to predict her tactics, but Lyra had learned from that prediction required patterns, and patterns could be broken. She changed her tactics in the middle of the fight, using moves that was not expecting. She won in 5 minutes. By the third round, word had spread through the arena. The princess was fighting differently. She was winning in ways that did not match traditional Vex combat. Warriors began to whisper about whether she was cheating, whether she was using some kind of forbidden technique. Her third opponent was a male named. He was the defending champion, and he had won every tournament for the past 10 years. He was faster than anyone else, and nearly as strong as the most powerful Vex warriors. Entered the arena with confidence. He looked at Lyra like she was a child who had wandered into a soldier's training ground by accident. "I will be merciful," said. "I will defeat you quickly. It will not hurt for long." Lyra said nothing. She simply waited. Attacked with a speed that was almost impossible to follow. His strike should have crushed Lyra immediately, but had taught her to watch not just the hands but the shoulders. The shoulders showed where the attack was coming from. Lyra moved microseconds before strike landed, and his force passed by her like wind. Was shocked. No one had ever avoided his first attack. They fought for 7 minutes. Was faster, but Lyra was smarter. She used his speed against him, making him overextend. She attacked his joints and his pressure points, the places where his incredible speed made him vulnerable. She fought like she understood something about combat that did not. In the end, Lyra threw across the arena. He crashed into the ground and did not get up. The crowd was silent. Then slowly they began to cheer. They had never seen anything like this. They had never seen a Vex warrior move and think this way. Lyra had won the tournament. Emperor Vex stood and descended to the arena floor. The crowd fell silent. The Emperor rarely left his throne during the tournament. He approached his daughter and looked at her carefully. Around them, thousands of Vex warriors watched. "You have proven your point," Emperor Vex said. "Human training has value, but this brings danger. The Empire does not accept change easily. Many will see this as a threat to our way." "Then we will show them that human wisdom makes us stronger," Lyra said, "not weaker." Emperor Vex considered this. Then he made a proclamation that would change the Vex Empire forever. "There is a hostile force attacking Vex territory to the east," he said. "They have destroyed 3 of our military stations. Our traditional tactics have failed. I am giving command of our response force to my daughter, Princess Lyra. If she can defeat this enemy, then we will accept that human knowledge has a place in our empire. If she fails, we will execute her and the human and pretend this experiment never happened." Lyra nodded, understanding the weight of what had been demanded of her. What neither Lyra nor her father knew was that Lord had already made his own plans. As Lyra was given control of the military force, Lord worked to sabotage her command. He assigned her the weakest soldiers, the oldest ships, and the least effective weapons. He gave her limited resources and impossible schedules. He did everything he could to ensure that she would fail. But he had underestimated both Lyra and the human who had trained her. When learned what had done, he worked with Lyra to develop a strategy that did not rely on strength or numbers. Instead, it relied on something that human generals had used for thousands of years: deception, speed, and the ability to understand what your enemy wanted. "The hostile force believes they are fighting against a traditional Vex military," told Lyra as they planned. "They expect overwhelming force and direct confrontation. We will give them neither. We will move fast. We will strike where they are weak. We will force them to chase us to places where we have an advantage." Lyra listened and learned. She incorporated everything had taught her over the past months and created a battle plan that was neither fully Vex nor fully human, but something entirely new. The day came when she would lead her forces against the enemy. As she stood in the command center of her flagship, looking out at the vast military force under her command, she thought of. He had been forbidden from joining her in battle. It was considered improper for a human to serve in the royal military, but his teachings would fight alongside her. As the enemy appeared on the scan, Lyra gave her first command: "Begin the deception. Let them see what we want them to see." The war was about to begin, and everyone in the galaxy would soon learn what one princess could do when she combined the power of the Vex with the wisdom of humans. The enemy fleet appeared on the scanners like a spreading stain. 40 ships, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything in Lyra's command. The attacking force was called the Collective, and they had conquered 7 systems in the past 2 years. Their admiral was a being named whose species bred warriors the way farmers bred crops. He had never lost a battle. He had never even faced a serious opponent. The Vex had always sent overwhelming force, and he had crushed them with equal overwhelming force. It was simple. It was certain. It was tradition. Did not expect to lose. Lyra watched the enemy formation spread across her scanner and began to move. Her first fleet was ordered to retreat. This was not cowardice. This was strategy. His fleet followed exactly as she had predicted they would follow. His entire doctrine was built on pursuit and overwhelming force. He could not help but chase. But Lyra's retreat took him toward a star system with 3 planets and countless asteroids. As followed deeper into the system, Lyra's actual forces moved into position behind him. The human soldiers under her command, a small division of 2,000 fighters, took positions within the asteroid field. Lieutenant Hayes was in command of the human forces. He was one of its officers, trained in human tactics and completely devoted to Lyra's strategy. "All units hold position," Hayes commanded. Let them pass completely." The ships continued deeper into the system, following the fleeing Vex forces. They were confident. They were powerful. They were not prepared for what would happen next. Lyra gave the signal. The human ships emerged from the asteroids, not to attack directly, but to attack communications. They hit support ships first. They disabled his supply lines. They damaged his repair facilities. They did everything they could to hurt him without meeting his main force in direct combat. Was confused. This was not how war was supposed to work. You did not attack supply lines. You attacked the enemy with your greatest force until one side was defeated. That was the way of that was victory. But Lyra had learned from humans that war was not always about direct confrontation. As struggled to organize his forces, Lyra's second wave attacked. But these ships did not fight to win. They fought to survive and to redirect. When a ship attacked them with overwhelming force, the human pilots moved aside, allowing the fire to hit their own fleet. It was chaos. His own ships were damaging each other. His forces, designed to work together in simple patterns, became a tangle of confused commands and contradicting orders. Watching from a secure observation station back on, smiled. Lyra was doing exactly what he had taught her. She was forcing her enemy to fight in ways they were not prepared for. By the third day, realized the truth. He was losing. His fleet had been reduced to half strength, not by superior Vex weapons, but by confusion, misdirection, and the simple fact that he had been made to fight a war his doctrine could not understand. Made a final decision. He would destroy the Vex flagship, the ship where Princess Lyra commanded her forces. If he could kill her, then the Vex forces would collapse into chaos, and he might yet salvage victory. He gathered the last of his heavy weapons and focused them on Lyra's flagship. Lyra watched the enemy ships move into position. She understood what was attempting. She understood that her flagship was about to become the target of everything he had left. She began to give the order to move, to escape, to preserve herself. Then's voice came through the communication system. He had done something forbidden. He had stolen a small fighter and launched himself into space, moving toward the enemy formation. "I am moving into position," said calmly. "Give me 10 seconds. "Do not do this," Lyra said. "That is suicide." "No," said. "It is strategy. Humans understand sacrifice. We understand that sometimes one person must give so that many can live. Let me do this. Let humans show the galaxy what we truly are." Lyra wanted to refuse. She wanted to save him. But she understood that he was right. She gave the signal to move her flagship. Small fighter moved directly into the path of weapons. The energy blast that had been intended for Lyra's flagship struck instead. The impact was tremendous. The fighter was destroyed in moments, but in those moments had moved Lyra's flagship to safety. The weapons that should have destroyed her found only empty space. And in losing his chance to kill Lyra, had wasted his final attack. What followed was the conclusion that everyone could see coming. Lyra's forces, already victorious, delivered the final blow. The collective was completely defeated. Lyra's first command in battle was an overwhelming success, and the galaxy took notice. But Lyra felt no joy in victory. She only felt emptiness, looking at the empty space where fighter had been. Then came the news that stopped her heart. The fighter had not been destroyed by the weapon's blast alone. It had crashed into one of the enemy ships, the impact combining with its last actions to cripple it completely. And somehow, through luck or through something the humans called fate, the impact chamber where had been was preserved. When Vex rescue teams found him, he was unconscious but alive. Lyra rushed to the medical center on her flagship. Lay in the healing chamber, his body wrapped in bandages, his breathing shallow. The Vex doctors said he would recover, but it would take time. Lyra sat beside him for hours, watching him breathe. When finally opened his eyes, her face was the first thing he saw. "Did we win?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "We won," Lyra said. "And you lived, you survived." Smiled weakly. Of course I survived. Humans are hard to kill. We have been doing this for a very long time. As recovered, the full scope of Lyra's victory became known across the Empire. The collective had attacked Vex territory dozens of times, but they had never been so completely destroyed. And they had been destroyed not by traditional Vex strength, but by something new. By something that came from human wisdom. The Empire began to speak of Princess Lyra as unstoppable, but Lyra knew the truth. She was not unstoppable because she was Vex. She was unstoppable because she had learned to think like a human. She had learned that true strength came not from power alone, but from the ability to understand your enemy, to adapt to changing circumstances, and to do what was necessary, even if it meant sacrifice. And as recovered in the medical chamber, Lyra made a promise to herself. The galaxy would learn to respect humanity, and it would learn this through her, recovered in the medical center of Lyra's flagship, where advanced technology combined with something unexpected happened. The Vex doctors used stasis chambers to keep in perfect condition, but Lyra had suggested something different based on what had taught her about human physiology. Humans heal better when they remain active, she told the head doctor. Keep him in recovery chambers, but let him move. Let him exercise. Do not put him in sleep. Keep him awake and working toward his own healing. The doctors were skeptical. This was not the Vex way, but Lyra was now a hero of the Empire. They could not refuse. Within weeks was walking again. Within months he was fully recovered. The galaxy was transformed by news of Lyra's victory. The collective was not just defeated. They were utterly destroyed. The empire they had conquered was returned to Vex control, and all of this had been accomplished through unconventional tactics that came directly from human strategic knowledge. 3 months after the battle, Emperor Vex made an announcement that shook the entire galactic community. He stood in the great hall of the Vex Palace with Princess Lyra beside him. She was dressed in formal royal armor, but it was different now. It combined traditional Vex design with elements inspired by human military equipment. The symbol of the Vex was there, but so was the symbol of humanity, woven together in patterns that showed unity rather than dominance. For 1,000 years, the Vex Empire has ruled alone, Emperor Vex said, his voice carrying through the hall and out across every communication system in the Empire. We have believed ourselves superior to all other species. We have believed our way was the only way. This belief has brought us strength, but it has also brought us blindness. He gestured to Lyra. My daughter has taught me something that I should have learned long ago, he continued. The greatest strength comes not from refusing to learn, but from the willingness to learn from others. Humans, a species we ranked as level 3, have saved our empire. Their tactics, their wisdom, their way of thinking has given us victory where traditional strength would have brought only death. Emperor Vex then made his final proclamation. From this day forward, humans are recognized as full citizens of the Vex Empire. They will have the same rights as all other species. They will be allowed to serve in the military. They will be allowed to hold positions of authority, and they will be welcome in all Vex territory. We do not lower ourselves by accepting their knowledge. We elevate ourselves by recognizing that strength comes in many forms. The great hall was silent for a moment. Then it erupted in cheers. Some cheered because they supported the emperor. Others cheered because they had witnessed something truly revolutionary. And some cheered simply because they understood that the galaxy had just changed forever. In the days that followed, received 3 gifts from Emperor Vex. The first was a command. He was asked to establish a military academy that would teach both Vex and human soldiers to fight together, combining the strength of both species. The second was citizenship in the highest rank of Vex society, making him a noble of the empire. The third was a simple message, written in the emperor's own hand. Thank you for saving my daughter. Thank you for saving my empire. You have proven that humans are not primitives. You are pioneers. Lord, who had tried to sabotage Lyra's mission, was brought to trial. The evidence of his betrayal was overwhelming. He had attempted to ensure the failure of the royal command. He had tried to destroy the princess and the human to prevent change. The trial lasted only 3 days. The sentence was exile. He was removed from the empire, his title stripped, his honor taken. The military academy was built on the grounds where and Lyra had first trained together. It became the most advanced military school in the known galaxy. Soldiers from dozens of species came to learn from the combination of human tactical thinking and Vex warrior strength. The academy produced leaders who understood that true power came from adaptability and wisdom, not just brute force. Lyra was named second in command of the Vex Empire. When Emperor Vex eventually stepped down, she would take his place as ruler of one of the largest empires in galactic history. But before that day came, she had work to do. She and walked together through the palace gardens one evening, months after the victory. The gardens were beautiful, with plants from 100 different worlds growing together in harmony. "The other empires are watching us," Lyra said. "They see what happened with They see that I defeated them using strategies they do not understand. They are afraid." "Fear is useful," said. "Fear makes people think before they act. Fear can prevent wars." "That is very human of you to say," Lyra responded. "I am human," said with a slight smile. "And humans understand something that many species do not. We understand that the greatest power is not the power to destroy. The greatest power is the power to inspire change, to make others want to be better, to show that different ways of thinking can create strength instead of weakness." Lyra stopped walking and turned to face directly. "I would not be who I am without you," she said. "I would be another warrior in the Vex tradition, strong but limited, powerful but blind. You taught me to see in new ways. You taught me that strength and wisdom are not opposites. They are partners." "You did the real work," said. "I only taught you what humans have learned through thousands of years of struggle and survival. You took that knowledge and made it your own. You made yourself into something no one has ever seen before." "Unstoppable," Lyra said quietly. "No," corrected. "Adaptable, wise, strong not just in body but in mind. Those are the things that truly matter." That night, Emperor Vex made his final decision about his succession. He announced that when he stepped down, his daughter would become the new leader of the Vex Empire. But more importantly, he announced that Graham would serve as the chief strategic advisor to the new emperor. The human and the alien princess would rule together. The announcement sent shock waves through the galaxy. It was unthinkable. A human, a level 3 civilization, would have authority over the entire Vex military and policy. It was almost impossible to believe. But Lyra and accepted their new roles without hesitation. They understood what they would face. They understood that many would resist, but they also understood that they had already accomplished something impossible. They had proven that cooperation could create strength beyond what either species could achieve alone. Years passed. Lyra became Empress of the Vex, became her closest advisor and most trusted friend. Together, they transformed the Vex Empire from an isolated power that rejected other species into a galactic leader that sought knowledge and cooperation wherever it could be found. In the end, the princess who was trained by a human had indeed become unstoppable, but not because she was invulnerable. She had become unstoppable because she understood that true power came from growth, from learning, and from the willingness to change. And the human who had crashed on an alien world and faced execution had become something he never expected. A legend in the galaxy, remembered not for his military power, but for his ability to see potential in others and help them achieve it. As Lyra stood in the new throne room of the Vex Empire, with beside her, she looked out at the future. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but with human wisdom and Vex strength working together, she knew they could face anything. The alliance between a human and a princess had changed the galaxy forever. And it had all begun with a crash landing, and one man who refused to show weakness in the face of the impossible. That was the beginning of a new era, and the best was yet to come.